Joe Gibbs Racing trusted him with everything: the setups, the data, the blueprint behind their speed. Then one day, he walked out the door. Now the team is suing Chris Gabehart for more than $8 million, claiming their secrets went with him. What really happened behind closed doors, and could this lawsuit change NASCAR forever? At the center of this story is Joe Gibbs Racing. The team has filed a lawsuit asking for more than $8 million from its former competition director, Chris Gabehart. The claims are serious. Joe Gibbs Racing says he broke his contract and mishandled confidential team information. In NASCAR, where races can be decided by tiny margins, data and knowledge are extremely valuable. Now that information is at the heart of a legal fight that could change how teams protect their secrets. To understand why this matters so much, you need to understand who Gabehart was inside the team. He was not a low-level employee. He spent more than 10 years at Joe Gibbs Racing and worked his way up. He started as an engineer, became a crew chief, and won races at the top level of the sport. Eventually, he was promoted to competition director, one of the most important jobs in the organization. In that role, he helped guide how the team prepared cars, made technical decisions, and chased performance every weekend. In simple terms, he was trusted with the blueprint of how Joe Gibbs Racing wins. According to the lawsuit, that trust is exactly what was violated. The team alleges that while still employed in a senior leadership role, Gabehart accessed, downloaded, and stored confidential data belonging to the organization. The claims state that this data included detailed setup information, performance metrics, engineering notes, strategic documents, and even financial and payroll-related information. In modern NASCAR, that kind of information is gold. Teams spend millions developing simulation tools, aerodynamic packages, suspension philosophies, and race strategy models. Even with a standardized car platform in the next-gen era, the difference between running fifth and winning often lies in how well a team understands the fine details. Tire fall-off curves, shock travel data, wind tunnel findings, simulator correlations. The idea that such data could potentially move from one organization to another is enough to shake the entire garage. The lawsuit further alleges that some of this information was stored on a personal Google Drive account. There are claims that folders were labeled in ways that suggested future alignment with another team. That other team is Spire Motorsports. Gabehart is reportedly preparing to take on a leadership role there. Spire Motorsports has been aggressively building its competitive infrastructure in recent seasons. The team has invested in personnel, resources, and technical partnerships. Hiring someone with Gabehart's resume would be seen as a major step forward. But this lawsuit casts a shadow over that move. It is important to note that at this stage, these are allegations. A lawsuit is not a verdict. Gabehart has not been found liable in court. However, the seriousness of the claims and the amount of money being sought signal that Joe Gibbs Racing believes significant damage has been done. The team is seeking more than $8 million in damages. That number alone tells you this is not a symbolic dispute. It reflects what the organization believes to be real competitive and financial harm. Interestingly, reports indicate that Joe Gibbs Racing is not currently seeking to block Gabehart from working for Spire. Instead, the focus appears to be on financial compensation and accountability under the terms of his employment agreement. That detail adds another layer to the story. If a team truly believed a rival was about to gain an unfair competitive advantage from stolen secrets, an injunction would typically be one of the first legal tools used. The absence of that request may indicate that the dispute centers more on contractual violations and the principle of intellectual property protection rather than immediate competitive sabotage. Still, the optics are explosive. NASCAR has always been a sport built on tight-knit relationships and fierce rivalries. Engineers move between teams, crew members change uniforms, drivers switch manufacturers. But there has always been an unspoken line when it comes to proprietary information. You can bring your knowledge. You cannot bring the hard drives. This case tests that boundary. To understand why this matters beyond just two organizations, you have to look at the broader landscape of modern NASCAR. The next-gen car was introduced with the goal of cost containment and competitive parity. Many components are now standardized. The car uses a common chassis and spec parts in several areas. Some believe that this would reduce the importance of proprietary secrets. The reality has been the opposite. With fewer areas open to development, the margins have tightened. That makes data analysis and interpretation even more critical. If everyone has the same base equipment, the advantage comes from how you optimize it. That means simulation models, internal setup libraries, tire degradation research, and driver-specific performance analysis are more valuable than ever. Represents thousands of hours of wind represents thousands of hours of wind tunnel testing, track testing, and computational modeling. Losing control of that intellectual property, even partially, would be a major concern for any team. From Gabehart's perspective, the story may look very different. High-level executives often negotiate complex contracts with non-disclosure clauses and non-compete language. Disputes over what constitutes personal knowledge versus company property are common in corporate America. Motorsports is no exception. Engineers build expertise over time. When they change employers, they naturally carry experience in their heads. The legal battle often centers on whether actual files and documents were taken, or whether the new employer is simply benefiting from accumulated expertise. That distinction will likely be central in court. The lawsuit reportedly details specific instances of data access and storage. It claims that proprietary files were downloaded during the period when Gabehart was still employed in a senior capacity. If proven, that could strengthen Joe Gibbs Racing's case. If the defense can demonstrate that no protected trade secrets were improperly transferred or used, the narrative shifts. Spire Motorsports now finds itself pulled into the spotlight, even though it is not the plaintiff in the case. The organization is trying to build credibility as a competitive force. Being linked to a trade secret dispute is not ideal timing. However, there is no indication at this point that Spire has been accused of wrongdoing. The focus of the lawsuit remains on Gabehart's alleged actions. Inside the garage, the reaction is likely mixed. Some team owners may quietly applaud Joe Gibbs Racing for drawing a hard line. In an era where competitive intelligence is priceless, protecting intellectual property is non-negotiable. Others may worry about the precedent. If every executive move triggers a legal battle, the sport could become more litigious and less collaborative. There is also a cultural layer to this story. NASCAR has long prided itself on being a family-oriented sport built on trust and relationships. Joe Gibbs Racing itself carries the name of a Hall of Fame figure whose reputation extends beyond racing into professional football and leadership circles. A public lawsuit against a former senior executive signals that this is not a minor disagreement. It is a fundamental breach of trust, at least from the team's perspective. $8 million is a huge amount in racing. It shows that Joe Gibbs Racing believes the damage could affect more than just one season. If a rival team gains even a small advantage, it can change race results, sponsorship money, and long-term success. As the case moves forward, a few big questions matter most. What data was taken? Was it protected under contract? Was it shared with another team? And did it cause real harm? Until the court reviews the evidence, no one knows for sure.